Hey everyone, and welcome to the Sunny Go One Piece podcast and its very first episode. My name's Kay. So what is this podcast and why am I making it, you ask? This podcast is to discuss the world-famous manga/anime from Japan, One Piece. It's my absolute favorite work of fiction over anything else, and it's been a wonderfully positive influence in my life, and I just kind of wanted to share it with the rest of the world, I guess, or whoever listens to this. I absolutely love One Piece and love talking about it, but many people in the West and the United States really don't know much about it. And for some reason, it isn't nearly as popular as some other well-known classic shonen battle anime/manga series like Dragon Ball or Naruto or Bleach, or even more recent series like Attack on Titan, One Punch Man, and even My Hero Academia. I'm not sure why. Well, I do know why, but it still kind of baffles me. So I don't really get to talk about it too much with a lot of people, at least around me. So I decided to kill two birds with one stone. I can talk to the internet and all of you and share with people the awesomeness of One Piece and hopefully introduce more people to this incredible series. And with that goal in mind, I'll be starting this podcast with an introduction to the series for newcomers, broken up into 2 episodes, which will be the first 2 episodes coming up, this one and the next one included. Then I'll be going through the series as a rewatch with 3 episodes at a time in each episode, or each podcast episode. So that's kind of the format going forward. But let's get started with the introduction. So what is One Piece? So One Piece is written and illustrated by Eiichiro Oda. Beginning in 1997, it was a weekly produced manga series and /comic strip, I guess. It comes in about each chapter weekly, which is about 15 to 18 pages a week. And it is published in a comic compilation magazine called Weekly Shonen Jump, which is then anthologized into volumes or called tankobons in Japan, comprising usually about 10 weeks of material or 10 chapters. Think of these like trade paperback compilations we have here in the US for our comics, like with DC and Marvel. The most successful and popular series are then further adapted into animated TV series or anime. And One Piece follows the character of Monkey D. Luffy, an aspiring pirate who sets out to sea to gather a crew and go after the famous treasure, the One Piece, which was left at the end of the earth by the former pirate king Gold Roger, who, by announcing the existence of this treasure at his execution, kicked off the great age of pirates, and whoever finds the One Piece claims the title of the Pirate King. Now that's a gross oversimplification, but in essence, the story is really a simple adventure and exploration series, but it expands to be so much more, which is one of the great things about this show. Before I kind of move on, just a bit of my background in relation to One Piece. So, just so you know where I'm coming from. I've been reading and watching One Piece since about 1999. I'm Japanese American. I was born and raised in the US, but I'm pretty fluent in Japanese. So I've always read the manga in the original Japanese and watched the anime in Japanese, most of the time without subtitles. Just so you know that I'll be basing much of my thoughts and opinions around those versions. I will sometimes try and see if I could incorporate any of the dubs, but generally I haven't really watched the dubs, so I don't really know too much about them. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's get into the meat of things. So why should you read or watch One Piece? Well, around the world, and especially in Japan, One Piece is the undisputed king of anime and manga, with over 450 million copies sold, and this is ahead of the second place manga series by over 200 million copies, which happens to be the legendary Dragon Ball series, which most people know, even non-anime fans would know and recognize Dragon Ball. But One Piece is actually the 3rd best-selling series in all of comics ever. That's including US-based ones, and it's only behind Superman and Batman comics, and One Piece is actually very close to overtaking Batman, which is pretty insane, to be honest, and it probably will happen within a couple years. Last I checked, it was only about 15 million copies behind, so probably within the next 2 years, it will eventually overtake Batman as the 2nd place best-selling comic book series in the world. One Piece, like many of its contemporaries, has many great aspects of other adventure battle series, like cool characters, fun comedy, badass moments, and cool fights. But what really sets One Piece apart from other series is a few qualities, and I want to highlight a few of them here. First is the incredible characters and how they're developed. And I don't just mean the main characters, but I'm also talking about the supporting characters, the side characters, and the villains. The care Oda puts into his characters is unrivaled. There's so many of them, yet all the designs of each are all so unique, with a couple exceptions, and I'll get into that later. The best part is all the effort that goes into developing them with their own deep and emotional backstories that really endear you to each character. In spite of how ridiculous they all look, you really become attached to them, and all because of how real much of the dialogue is, and because of this, they feel like real conversations and real people, and it's pretty impressive. In addition to the characters, the world building is the thing that most people often bring up when mentioning the strengths of One Piece, and they're right. The amount of work Oda puts into explaining and expanding the world of One Piece is second to none. The creativity, the diversity, and beauty of each island is incredible, drawing from real-life locales, fantasy inspirations, and all sorts of cultures around the world. It really makes the world feel lived in, and it feels interesting and super fun. With each passing chapter or episode, it gets expanded further and further, creating like this rich history to the point where when he refers to things and characters or callbacks that are years apart or even sometimes decades apart, they're genuinely surprising and sometimes shocking. I can't tell you how many times throughout this series Oda reintroduces something you long stopped thinking about, only to just hype you up or induce nostalgia like crazy. Not only that, but the dynamic and dramatic political intrigue that gets introduced and expanded upon as the series goes on, I feel rivals even some of the more serious live action shows and movies out there, adding to that feeling that there's a whole host of things that are going on in the world outside of our main characters and what's actually shown in the series is pretty crazy, and also really fun to think about when you're going through the series. Lastly, I wanted to mention the accessibility and wide appeal of this series. While One Piece's target audience is and still is young kids / teenage boys, I honestly and wholeheartedly believe that anyone and everyone can really enjoy One Piece. It appeals to a wide range of ages as it's fun and entertaining for young kids, but the character development, the emotional core, and the social and political dynamic at play keeps the story really deep and interesting for everyone. And for a series aimed at kids, it's pretty crazy the number of more mature-oriented subject matter it actually deals with. I find it interesting the sheer number of social issues it tackles because it's pretty immense. For example, it touches on wealth and social elitism, slavery and human trafficking, racism and segregation, government censorship, propaganda, corruption, homosexuality, and transsexuality, albeit in a bit of a kind of stereotypical way, but colonialism and territorial conflict, religious conflict. It's obviously a fictional religion, but it still deals with the same sort of themes. And they're often presented in a way that it doesn't feel too heavy for younger audiences, but for older audiences, it really adds to the depth of the story and contributing to the overall appeal of the series in general. And I feel like guys and girls can both enjoy this series as well, because unlike many series, it's not all about badass fights or macho muscular characters. It's certainly got all of that, but it's also funny as hell. There's so much comedy placed in the right places in the series, and even during some serious moments too, but it never feels like it undercuts them. Not to mention the diverse characters and villains. It's got one of, if not the greatest mix of characters I've ever seen. I want to tell you about so many of them, but I don't want to spoil any of them. But trust me, you can't even imagine in your wildest dreams some of these awesome characters and their character designs. It's got your traditional macho characters, but also some great female characters, wacky and strange ones, and villainous and dark ones, as well as like really cute and quirky characters. Anything you can think of, it's in here. And even the ones you can't think of are also in here. And if it's not here, it will eventually be here. I can't imagine them not showing up. Honestly, I could go on and on about all these analytical more, reasons why One Piece is great, but it ultimately comes down to the fact that this series is fun, an incredible piece of storytelling. It'll make you simultaneously cheer, laugh, thrilled, crying, frustrated, angry, empathetic, suspenseful, sad, and overjoyed. Sometimes all at the same time. It's pretty insane. This series is just full of so many of these amazing moments that are just absolutely unforgettable. These moments are set up, built up to and paid off so well that they become some of the most epic and satisfying things I have ever seen or read. The cool and epic moments are definitely entertaining, but what makes them so memorable is the emotion and connection behind these. They're constructed so damn well, while it also plays with expectations by either giving you exactly what you want or surprising the hell out of you with something you didn't even know you wanted. And these types of experiences make this series so amazing on an episode-to-episode basis. I mean, to give you an idea, if I asked 100 people what they would say is the most iconic moment in all of One Piece, I would probably get 100 different answers. And even I have a hard time actually deciding for myself which one is the most iconic, just due to the sheer fact that there's so many incredible ones that I honestly couldn't really decide. And on a personal level, this series is just inspiring to me on so many levels. And it's changed my life for the better. You know, not to get too overdramatic or sappy, but I've been inspired and motivated to really believe in myself and go after what I truly want, no matter how insurmountable the odds appear to be, all because of this series. It has so many great messages and themes that I feel like anyone who watches One Piece will benefit in some positive way aside from just being entertained. More than anything, this series has really taught me how to dream and believe that anything is possible if you really want it and are willing to die for it. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it just means that you're willing to put everything you have into it. And obviously, I'm not interpreting this literally, but on a more realistic level, in that it's okay to dream big and go after goals that are seemingly impossible or really difficult. I can honestly say that this series changed my life for the better and shaped how I approach my life. And I can point to so many life lessons and philosophies I've learned from this series. It's pretty insane. And when we get to them in the series, I'll go into more details about those for sure. Again, I don't really want to spoil any of that for now, so I'm being very general and vague. But yeah, on that happy note, I'm going to end this first episode and part 1 of the intro here. I hope you guys got a sense of why I love this series and why I want other people to really get into the series and why it's a great time to start. In the next episode, I'll be continuing the intro but diving into and discussing more of the common drawbacks and criticisms of the series, the best way to view One Piece, and also more specific details on what this podcast will look like going forward. Please look forward to that. And part 2 of the intro to One Piece is already up as well, so you can go ahead and check that out. Or if you don't need any more convincing, go ahead and check out episodes 1 through 3 and then come back and take a listen to my first rewatch episode where we will discuss those 3 episodes. That podcast episode is already available as well. And I know there are too many podcasts in the world, but I really appreciate you taking the time out to listen to mine. And I know this is the first episode and I haven't really done anything, but if you enjoyed this, send me a like or a comment. And if you want to join me on this journey of rewatching One Piece, please consider subscribing. I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.